So the next thing in line I want to work on with each of these movement cues is the direction. So I'm going to make these direction backwards and forwards. Now here's where a situation where I really could use wildcards to make some of my life easier. So at this point, I'm going to be, where I am right now in programming this little bit of this page is editing only the movement effects. So let's take spot circle and we'll put an underscore right there. So now I've got this thing that says spot underscore. So if I'm gonna go into these cues and I wanna change directions of my effects, that's all I'm trying to do here. Just turn the things left and right. Where am I gonna be? Command, I need you. When I'm programming this part of a show or programming these buttons, the fade doesn't really matter because I'm adding commands. So the fade becomes irrelevant to me because it's just gonna instantly run whatever command unless in the command I write a fade time or something like that. What we're gonna do is use these command lines in these cues effectively as macros built into a cue list. So command, what are we gonna write? Assign effect one dot spot underscore asterisk dot asterisk. So that is going to be assign effect pool 1, which is your effect pool. Anything that has spot underscore. And then extra stuff. I actually need to move that again. That needs to be here. Pow. Spot underscore wildcard dot wildcard. And then direction equals forward. And then we're just gonna copy and paste. And then change the direction. So now, if I did it right, which there's nothing saying I'll do this part right. Let go. Oh, something isn't right. Oh, what have I done wrong? Command view. Effect 1 spot. Object does not exist. Oh, like hell you don't exist. I'm looking right at you. Let's find out why it's behaving that way. So why is it fighting me on this part? As I'm editing this. So assign effect 1 dot spot underscore. Does this need to move? Is that what's going on here? Do I put the asterisk in here? Let's try that. Let's see what this looks like. Will you work now? There it is. Yes. So, syntax matters. Let's look at why. I'm trying to assign effect pool 1 dot spot underscore wildcard named. So it's gonna think in this name, it wants to be anything that starts or has the line spot underscore in it. For dimming effects, you might do underscore spot or spot underscore underscore. Any little extra delineation you can do like that is gonna help you. So there's a good answer right away of things you can do in your command line of a cue. So let's change a color here. All right, so now we got to go through and do a couple of things. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go through here and rename all of our beam movements to give them that little underscore. There you go. We have done that. Now we're going to go to editing the beam direction cue. And so what we're going to edit is direction right, direction left. We're going to go all the way over to command. And we're going to assign effect 1 dot beam underscore wildcard dot wildcard direction equals right. So once again, if you guys haven't seen this one, it is assign effect, which means we're going to assign something in an effect. 1 dot selecting by label, by name, beam underscore wildcard. So anything that has beam underscore in it. But specifically beam underscore, not just beam, it's got to be beam underscore. dot wildcard, which means any line of any effect. So that way you can update, you can make changes to multi-line effects. So it would be pool item line. So in this case, we're talking about effect pool 1 because it's the only effect pool we got. Effect, which is beam underscore wildcard. Dot line, which in this case is also wildcard because we're messing with all of it. Slash dir equals, that's for direction. If you pull up your ACT support base or support knowledge base syntax website, which you should keep bookmarked at all times because it's super clutch all the time, equals to the right, which is their value. And I just X'd out of that, but that's okay because I remember what I was doing. Cool. So we have changed this thing. So if we pull up beam circle, hey, look at that. And just to double check, make sure we're not doing something screwy here. You can see as I go through, it's not changing the stuff where I didn't have that, where I don't add that underscore. It's only doing it to things where I have the underscore. In this case, it's all of my movement stuff, which is sick. And one thing I have not been super up to speed on is working with these wildcards. I haven't done it enough. Again, all praise to Jason Jaffo, who showed me the way. So, time to do the same thing we did before. Getting every syntax right is very difficult. That's why you spend a lot of time and think, and really pay attention to how you're typing, because every little bit matters. And we're gonna keep going like that with a lot of things, because I don't just like to use the direction of my effects. I like to use a lot of this other stuff. So we're gonna make changes to groups, blocks, wings. So when we look at an effect, in this case, we're gonna be looking at our spot circle. Talk about groups. It helps to kind of sort out how many sets of groups you wanna run. Whether it's none, lots, or, however many. So let's look at groups. Let's run spot circle and let's live update this and see what it looks like. What does 2 groups look like? It's gonna split the whole rig in half. Well, that's kind of neat. What about 4? What's that look like? That looks cool, but does it look that much different than 0? It doesn't. It does the same thing. So let's see what else we can play with. 8? It's kind of a question of, do you want to have a lot of these, or do you just want to have a little bit of different flavors? I think if we go 0 to 8, we'll be in good shape. 0, 2, and 8. Just for funsies, so we can see it. And we're gonna edit. So we're gonna call it 0 groups, 2 groups, 8 groups. Assign effect 1 dot spot underscore asterisk underscore groups equals 0. And then we can manually edit the next guys. 2, 8. And that should be the whole thing. So if we look at this effect, we go here to groups where it's currently sitting at 8. None. 2, 8. Look at us go. We are live editing selective effects. Effectively, what we're doing is being able to change the parameters of effects instead of having a circle effect with groups of 2, a circle effect with groups of 8, a circle effect with groups of 0. We're just live editing that effect. And because it's a selective effect, those live edits will take place and those changes will take while the effect is playing. So this is a great way to be able to make changes to an effect without having to write a whole buttload of pain in the ass effects. So keep that one in mind, guys. This is a feature you can use a lot in your life. And we're just gonna do the exact same thing across multiple types of fixture groups that do the same thing. Now we're gonna assign effect 1 point beam underscore asterisk asterisk groups equals 0. How do you choose what amount of groups you want for every rig? You don't choose it for every individual rig in this case. So I'm trying to build a basic punt page. Most of my shows are pre-programmed or run on timecode, but sometimes you need to punt some stuff. Either you get a new song that's not programmed or something fails and you just got to figure it out. I'm not necessarily looking for specific control where I know that I want to get this amount of stuff. In this situation, what I'm looking for is a little bit is for one page worth of control, one page of buttons worth of control, better than a single oh shit queue. That's the goal. And one of the things you can also do is you can use this to, you know, test out stuff you want to use in a programmed queue. So I can look at this and go, okay, I could use a circle with these groups, but I don't want to just try and make a bunch of them and then delete it. Right, it's a better than nothing scenario, but it also lets me punt relatively effectively. And as much as I'd love to have the masterpiece that is Chris Toms's show file, I am just not. I'm not that LD. I'm not doing EDM shows where you're punting, 95% of the time, and you need really, really granular control because you are working with music on the fly that is going to be relatively, it's more controlled than like a rock or pop show or a jam show, especially, where you can really know, like, okay, we know there's a buildup. We know how EDM tends to work. And unless your artist is throwing a real curveball at you, when you hear the hi-hat double again, and it gets into that, just machine gun territory, you're about to have 1, 2, 3, 4 huge. That's when it's helpful to have all that control. But in my case, I just need a little bit. In terms of what values look good in your punt file, you need to look at it. You need to double check it. Double check it in 3D, double check it in whatever previs you can do. In my case, right down here is beautiful WYSIWYG R45. And as far as figuring out which values I like, honestly, I just look at it. I just try and keep it a little bit simpler. It has me focusing more on the show than what's in my console and having to type in values. I used to have a lot of stuff where I'd have a lot of go-to menus and be able to select things and all this awesome stuff. Cedric, I wrote a giant whack ton of variables too. I've done that. I've been there. On the other side of it, I've kind of come to the realization that I want to keep things much more simple, especially for my shows. Again, a punt situation on a time-coded show is pretty rare, but when it is, you need to be able to rock it. And you need to have the ability to go fast. And spending a bunch of time typing in stuff to add variables and waiting for macros to update, just, it can burn you real bad. And also, I have to be prepared for the eventuality that I may not be the LD anymore. And I may still have to use that same show file. The old trope of show business is that the show must go on. Well, if I get hit by a bus, someone else is going to be the LD, and they need to know how to get around my show file. So that's why I keep it simple. That's why I try to make big changes as fast as I can. That's why I don't do a color picker. I know a lot of guys love the color picker. Color picker's cool. It's gnarly. I've made them. I've made the big color picker that in the layout view that swaps the images around, that makes it look super sexy. And for me, for my workflow, for the work I tend to be doing, I don't need it. I need 10 to 15 color patterns that I can just go to. Just be done. I'm not looking to make a change based on, I want this fixture type to be that green, that type of green. I want to hit a button that's got a green vibe to it. Again, for the same reasons. You know, I gotta go fast. It's gotta look like I meant to do it. And I want a simple show file so I don't make mistakes and have my own internal fuck ups and then spend the first verse of a song staring at my console going, what the hell did I do wrong? What am I programming wrong? And how do I get around what I've programmed wrong? And that's a big thing. Assign effect. We'll pull this back up so you guys can see. Once again, I'm not doing anything y'all haven't seen before. Wash. Wildcard. And we're gonna do groups equals 0. Cool, so we've done groups. Can anybody see the fuck up I've made? I just made a big old screw up. Big old screw up. I'm gonna have to rewrite one of these. But if you can look at down below, you can still see I got lights moving. That's bad because I'm trying to turn these things off. Fixtures are moving. Controlled by a exec. Any ideas yet? Any takers? Bueller? My programmer is cleared. I have hit clear many times. You can see I've got nothing in my programmer. This effect should not be running. Why is this effect running? While we were going through and storing all the commands that go into those buttons. Did it store into wash groups? Nope, wasn't in wash groups. Did I store it into beam groups? I didn't store it into positions, did I? Nope. So I stored something stupid into spot groups. Yep. And rather than find out what it is, remove, I'm just gonna say goodbye to that sequence and start over. And let's edit this and let's see how many blocks look cool. And again, we moved on. So we have edited the movement. So I basically made a cue list with 3 different effects in it, all with no tracking so that they don't bleed into each other, and all with the slow fade so that if I do make a change, they fade into each other. Now we're just making buttons to control all the options of these effects. I am not making anything that turns them on and off, and there's a reason for that, because I'm gonna use the DMX remote size master trick later on. Anyways, so we're gonna go through here and we're gonna look and see how many blocks look cool. Obviously, none looks cool. Let's see what 2 looks like. 2 looks pretty cool. What does 4 look like? 4 looks pretty cool. What does 6 look like? Just to screw with the world. Does 6 look cool at all? Kinda, but not that cool. Yeah, 2 looked cool and 4 looked cool. So we're gonna have 0, 2, and 4 blocks. But let's just double check, make sure I didn't F this up. Huzzah! And there's one thing I will recommend to anybody who's watching. If you're making stuff like this, if you're doing anything that involves live changes to anything, check it. Double check it, look at it. Don't just go, oh, I know I programmed that right. I know I typed that in right. You don't know until you actually go and look. Otherwise, you're having like the worst day ever. Now, that was all fun and that was all good. Now we move on to wings, and this is where life kind of sucks. Because you can't do what we just talked about with wings. Because things that are anything in an effect that controls a pan, if you want it to be symmetrical, you're gonna do a wings of -2 or negative number wings. And then for tilt, it's gonna be a positive number. So you gotta do it backwards. And that means editing individual lines. We're gonna get through it. It's not so bad. It's just a bummer. Because when I'm dealing with groups, and I'm dealing with blocks, and I'm dealing with direction, I'm affecting every line of an effect the same way. So for example, if we look at circle, groups, every time I'm updating groups, I'm doing 2, 8, and none, all the way across the line. When you're working with wings, you gotta do it differently. If you've made symmetrical circles before, symmetrical pan effects, the symmetrical pan effects have to be a negative value. So the wings actually do opposite of each other. Instead of with wings 2, they're doing the same. You know what? We're gonna make these macros. I've just decided I'm gonna say screw that and I'm gonna run macros. because macros. So I'm gonna fire up a blank view. We're gonna look at a macro because I can look at lines here and we can do that. So let's open up this macro and mess with it. So we're gonna assign effect one dot spot circle template dot one wings equals -2. And I know that dot one is, or the line one of that effect is pan. When it does it from a predefined, it always is. So now we're just gonna copy and make a new one for dot two. Cool. And then we've got to do the same thing. So now we're in dot one. And since we're here, we can do spot pan, wings of -2, spot tilt, wings +2. So that's the whole macro you got to write. It's not that big a deal. It's just that you got to copy it and pay, you know, copy it around 9 times. Still not that bad. This wings, and it's actually 2 for you, isn't it? 2. So if I go to command and just put macro spot wings 2, it's done the thing I need it to do. And now I know that I can do that. I can do macro spot wings 4, macro spot wings 8. Cool. So now I know it's going to do those things. And now let's just make these macros. Let's finish up these macros for spots. We're going to copy at here, enter, spot wings 4. And we're just going to change all the things that are 2s to 4s. And if you really wanted to dig into macro writing, you could probably write a macro that writes this macro for you. But I'm not that dude. So, not going to do it. There's a part of this whole process of programming stuff where you don't want to be writing macros for the sake of writing complicated macros, because you totally can. But you can also get yourself weeded that way, and you can make a lot of mistakes. And when money's on the line, you don't want to make mistakes. Why would you want to do it? Only if you wanted to practice writing funky macros. Actually, it wouldn't be that difficult because you would be dealing with, all you'd be having to do is write out a single variable. Actually, no, because you have parentheses in it. This would be really great practice if you were working with advars. That's the reason. And it's the only reason. Otherwise, this is a really terrible idea. But now that we've done it once, we can pull up the circle and we can see if we did this right. Hey, 2, 4, and 8. That part worked. Let's look at the tilt one. 2, 4, 8. Awesome. And let's look at pan. -2, -4, -8. Hey, buddy, we did it. So we know that works. Copy this at here, enter. So now we just got to go in and make little edits. So all we got to do is replace the word spot with beam. It looks complicated because we have a lot of underscores and, you know, sometimes you use asterisks and stuff, but it's really not complicated. But if you can see, I've been harping on this all day long. Label and color code. Always, 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 always. The second you internalize it, you know what's going on, and you know you can make this happen, it's easy peasy. Downside is it takes a while to understand and internalize it. And yes, I am color coding macros that get referenced in a command line, and I will never ever push these buttons because if I ever have to find them, I want to look and see. And if I did everything right, that's the last of those macros. Push wings 8. I'm gonna go back because I know for sure I did some things wrong here. Nope, I did it right. Hey, look at that. So let's look at the circle and let's see if I pulled it off. Why did it fail? It looks like it affected the circle. It says the effect doesn't exist. Beam circle template. Let's look at the macro again. Beam circle template. That is spelled correctly here. Ah, can't spell. One little spelling error can totally get you. What does it say in the command feedback? When I was looking at it, so this is what got me down the line here. What got me down the line, it says beam circle template .2 object does not exist. I know for sure that that's what I wanted that name to be. And I know that's what I typed in. So that sends you on the hunt. Okay, that sounds like a spelling error somewhere. You made a typo, and typos are gonna kill you. That's why you spend all the time and pay attention when you're doing it and try and mitigate that. So I went and looked at that effect. And when I pulled up that effect, I saw it looked like that. And just one little spelling error, one little typo can fuck your day up. But now, hey, look at that. 4.8. And then when I pull up the command feedback, you can see it's doing all the things I want it to do, which is right handy. Right handy. And so if I look at the wash circle template, hey, that part worked. Let's look at one of the other ones just to make sure that the pans and things work right. -4, -8, cool. Seems we did that part right. Save. Good golly, 6.5 hours staring at this computer with a big ass light